And now, Wellington Outdoors presents Terry Rahm and Ben Lee, bow hunting for whitetail deer, using field-proven Ben Lee hunting products.
Folks, if you hunt in the South, especially in the southern states, you're going to see a lot of pine trees. Most of your timber companies and your individual landowners that went to forest management, and this means clear-cutting the property and planting pine trees. If you notice here, you've got three different stands of timber. You've got your young pine trees growing there, it's 2 or 3 years old. You've got some that's 8 or 10 years old, and then some mature forest. This is where you're going to find deer, and you have to understand these to be a good hunter. If you notice Terry Rahm here, he's going in some pine trees that's 8 to 10 years old. These are real thick, and they're real good bedding areas. They're not good areas for deer to feed in. So what Terry's done is got next to the clear-cut area, and he is going into an area where he's going to go set up to do an afternoon hunt in some mature pine trees. If you notice, Terry's using a drag rag there, and he's putting him some dominant buck gearing on it. He's tying it on his boot. A lot of people use drag rags to get a deer to follow them into their stand, because deer communicate by smell. And at the same time they communicate by smell, one of the dangers is if a deer smells you, he's going to run from you. If you'll notice, Terry's using a cover scent there, pine scent. This is real good to use here in the southeast and any of your southern states, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, North, South Carolina, Florida, because we're planting 800 pine trees per acre. And when they're 14 years old, they take half of them, leaves 400. Then they come back in at 20 years and take 200 off. And then at 25 years, they cut them again and replant them. Notice how the rag drags on the ground behind Terry there. And what it's doing, it's leaving a scent on the leaves, on the grass, on everything when he's walking through the woods. And as Terry approaches his tree stand area where he's going to be hunting at, he takes his drag rag off, because a lot of times a deer will follow that scent in. He's just like a beagle running a rabbit, and when he runs in there on that scent and it stops, he'll walk around in a frenzy trying to find where the deer's at. And this is something that really pays off in this time of the year when bucks are looking for does. And you take a doe tarsal gland and you take it and put some doe estrus on it. This is a good time to get a buck to come up there and smell. And a lot of people use doe estrus on their drag rag systems, or they used to use plain doe urine. But I like the doe estrus the best myself, and I like to hang 3 or 4 tarsal glands around where I'm going to be sitting at in my tree stand, generally no further than 25 yards away. Most of the time it'll be 18 to 20 yards. And if you can find a couple of scrapes around the area, you want to try to set one of them up real close to a scrape, because this buck's going to come back by there and check this out. You have to understand, hunting in the South too, the stomach is really what dictates to the deer what's going to happen. You see up north when it's real cold, and when it's cold, deer burn a lot of calories. They don't burn a lot of calories down here in the South. When I say burn a lot of calories, they can get up and walk and eat some honeysuckle or briars or pick up some acorns. And what's going to happen when they're doing that, they're just going to be in a small area. But if the deer's got to get up and really look for food, like up in Michigan or New York or somewhere, that doe's got to travel a lot, so that buck's going to move a lot to find her. So if it's hot weather and there's in the South, deer don't move much. So you've got to get right in close to their bedding areas in these tight cut over places or clear cuts. Get right around the edges of them and set up where some scrapes are. And if these deer come out of the bedding area and just move around a little bit to eat, you're going to get a chance to get a shot. If you notice, Terry hung up another doe tarsal gland there and poured some more doe urine on it. He's coming up here, and there's a scrape a buck made right there over overhanging limb, and Terry's going to put him another scent up. He's going to hang him, he's using tarsal gland here, and it's a new product that we worked with a lot. Deer have a gland right at the base of their horns where they rub their forehead, and it's just like a marking of a post where they urine on the ground. If one rubs a tree and nothing comes by, he's going to rub where that other buck's rubbed. So all Terry's trying to do is he used a drag rag system to try to get a deer up there. Then he hung tarsal glands up to try to get the deer to stop or turn at an angle, walk into where he can get a side shot at 15 or 20 yards, and he went ahead and just throwed in a little bit by putting a tarsal gland there, and then putting the forehead gland to try to put it all together to get a deer to stop and give him a shot. You notice he's getting ready to go up his tree stand here. He's hanging what we call a bow buddy onto his bow. Everybody needs one of these. It's a little clip that clips together. It won't let your bow or your gun fall. He's using a Warning Sweat tree stand, which is one of the best out on today's market. It's real light. This is their Rifleman model, which I like the best because it's light and it's easy to use. And if you were gun hunting, you could use it and lean back against the backrest, which folds down or up. And at the same time, you can use a tree for a rest for rifle, because I do lots of rifle hunting around these clear cuts. If you notice the clear cut I showed you a while ago, where the bedding area is on one side and the feeding area on the other, and I get on a pine tree right next to the edge of it and go up 20 or 25 feet, and that's a perfect distance to be to see out across there and keep your scent above them, because you can't be careful enough about keeping your body clean and being in an area where deer can smell you, because when you're in hilly country like down here in the southeast, the wind's liable to blow any time, just as you can see them pine trees moving there, and it'll carry your scent up, and the thermal currents will carry it uphill or downhill depending on it's morning or evening, and you got a problem there. Notice what Terry's doing there. This is a must for all hunters, bow or gun. When you get up in your tree stand, put that safety belt on and hook it up. One of the first things you do. In fact, a lot of times I also tie off my stand, because me weighing 260 pounds, when I get up and start moving around a little bit, it could be a little dangerous. I fell out of one of these things one time and it wasn't fun. So always be safe when you're up in a tree stand. Always be safe. Notice Terry's putting in a little screw-in thing there to hang his bow on. Everybody ought to have one of these and carry them in your fanny pack, or either in your vest. If you notice, Terry uses a vest there, and I use a vest also. I like a vest a lot better than I do the fanny pack, because you can get more into it. It's just a turkey hunting vest that we converted over into a bow hunting vest, and there's a lot of good ones on today's market. If you notice, Terry's wearing that hide and pine camo from the Liberty Company, and it looks exactly like a pine tree. Notice Terry does something that I always do. Fred Bear told me one time, always check your equipment when you get up in a tree stand. Pick you out a spot 25 yards away, shoot at it. If you notice here, it's just a setting game when you're hunting deer. If you noticed, we had a time lapse of about 45 minutes there. I'm running the camera today, and Terry's setting up there. We do this a lot. I'll run it one day, he'll run it one day. John McKee will run it one time with us. There's a bunch of us get together, and we just try to film each other as we're successful. Notice this deer came in right where the drag rag was. Now he's walking uphill towards the scrape. Generally, when a buck comes in, he will go to the scrape where he's been at before when you get him to come in on a scent. By laying a scent down, you see, a deer's got to be in the area where you're going to be. If you notice, Terry hit that deer back right about the third or fourth rib back and went right through him. The deer took off like he was on fire. Anytime you see a deer take off like they're running wide open, generally you got a death shot for sure. Hi folks, I'm Ben Lee from Wellington Outdoors. Wellington Outdoors are the manufacturers of Tinks Safariland hunting products and the Ben Lee Old Timer hunting product line. We manufacture the world's finest scents and calls. I want you to look at a few of the things that make me successful. Different hunting in different places calls for different things to use while you're hunting. And the reason I'm successful, I adapt to the area of the country that I'm in at the time of the year I'm hunting. So come along with me and let me show you a few of the things that I use. You know, folks, I used to use a fanny pack, but Liberty Trouser Company built me a turkey vest, and I worked with them to put a lot of pockets on it to carry a lot of different stuff in it while I'm out there hunting. And each pocket I carry something in. This is the dominant buck urine, and I use this a lot during season, all season long. And the reason I do that is it's just like a dog in your yard. If a male dog urinates on a bush and nothing comes along, he's going to urinate on it. And all it does is get that buck to walk that extra 5 yards over to where you got an open shot with a bow. Now, I've got all kind of different products in here. I guess you'd think it looks like I've got a sporting goods store here. But each one of these has a different application and a different hunting tactic. This is a new scent that we've been working on for several years. It's a forehead gland. And deer mark trees just like they mark the ground with their personal scent. And if one deer starts rubbing a bush, another one comes by, he'll rub it. So it may give you that extra 5 or 10 yards for a deer to walk over and give you that shot you need. In my backpack here, I always carry This is a particular glove that I use when I'm shooting a bow. I like one that's got an arm guard on it, because if you wear heavy clothes and you're up here in the snow and the cold weather, you need something that'll hold them clothes next to your arm. So that's just a little something that I use. I use a bow set at 65 pounds, and I got an overdraw on it. It shoots about 254 feet per second. I don't go anywhere without a drag rag. I prefer a drag rag over a scent pad, because when you're walking on mud and dirt and stuff like that, they build up. A drag rag works all the time. Just keep it saturated in your scent that you want to put on it, and which I use is just a regular deer scent, because deer communicate by smell. One thing I never go in the woods without is mouthwash, and you wonder why mouthwash. Well, when the dentist called me about this product, I almost fell out of the chair laughing. I said, it's another gimmick. Then he was talking to me, he said, Ben, said, caribou and animals that's never seen a man relate to one thing. When you're up there and you know a caribou has never seen a man or never smelled a man, he's scared of one thing. He's scared of bears and wolves, because they're meat eaters. We're meat eaters. This particular product right here, once you gargle with it, you have no odor breath, at least for an hour or 2 hours, because it kills the sulfur modules in your saliva. So next time you go, think about your breath when you're going hunting. There's only one or two of them that's ever been patented. Don't go anywhere without a safety rope if you're going to hunt out of tree stands. It's a must. I know. I weigh 260 pounds, and I fell out of one. It was a bad feeling when I hit the ground. You got to have a bow saw, so when you're going up a tree, you can cut the limbs off to get up there. And you've got to have a pair of binoculars. You can't make it without them. The most important thing you're going to ever tote with you is toilet paper. If you don't, these leaves get cold and wet, and they're bad. So bring some toilet paper. One of my favorite things to hunt with, and I've hunted with it all over the country, and it's been successful everywhere I've been, is a tarsal gland. Some of y'all have seen this product work in our video Hunting the Rut 1 with me and Don Bale, and in this video, you're going to see a tarsal gland working to entice a big buck to come into a trail to give me a good shot. This product works. So go by your local sporting goods store and check for a tarsal gland and the buck urine that goes with it. And then if you want to rehydrate it several times, put it in a plastic bag and get the dominant buck urine and use on it. I don't go anywhere when I get to my stand. If you're sweated and you're down, your clothes got odor on them or anything, because you want to take a good bath at home, use you some odor killer soap, and when you get out there, use you some odor killer spray to take all the scent off your clothes, because a deer's #1 defense against a hunter is his nose. Now, continuing on through my product line here, I look for everything. Most important is a grunt call. Remember, I use this lanyard here, but when I'm shooting a bow, I keep it inside my jacket. One time I had it in my mouth. I forgot to spit it out and shot it out of my mouth with a bow, so be sure you keep it inside your jacket or somewhere. Now, one thing I carry that a lot of people don't carry when they go hunting is 2 or 3 different kinds of rope. This one here I use for dragging a deer. This one here I use for pulling my bow up my tree stand. Also, I use it for securing my tree stand off so it won't slip. Sort of a safety rope. And least but not least, a lot of people never do it, but I've called in hundreds of deer doing it. I don't go anywhere that I don't have a pocket full of acorns. These are big old acorns, extra batteries from a flashlight. But these big old acorns here, when you see a deer walking down through the woods, you can thump one, he'll hear it and look over there, thump another, and he thinks it's his dinner table. And he'll walk over there. I've called up hundreds of deer thumping acorns, so I always got a pocket full of them. I don't go anywhere without a flashlight with extra batteries. That's just me going in before daylight and coming out. You have to have it. You have to have flagging. A lot of times you go in an area, you're going to send somebody else in, you scouted out a good place, you want somebody to go in to hunt, so you can tie flagging up about every 50 yards or 40 yards where they can see it and go in, and then just a neat little flashlight to get you in and out of the woods. Basically, this is what I carry with me in the woods. It may vary on hunting conditions, different parts of the country. And you know, there's nothing like bow hunting when it comes to hunting for deer. I love to gun hunt, and I do a lot of it. I'm very successful at it. But the real challenge is getting a deer within 15 yards of me. And if you use a proper scent, proper calling techniques, you can get a deer to walk that extra 30 or 40 yards to get you a shot at it. You know, folks, by working with Wellington Outdoors, I get an opportunity to travel all over the country deer hunting. And each part of the country, the techniques that you use will make you a better hunter. If you're hunting up in the Northeast, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, Indiana, any of the northern states, especially late in the wintertime, you're going to find a lot of snow. And you're going to find that deer have to move more to get food. As I was saying before, the deer's stomach dictates to him what he's got to do. And during the rut, naturally, the more calories they burn, the more food they have to take in. A deer eats an average of about 7 pounds a day. By understanding this, if you're around a feeding area, and like myself, I go in and scout an area out, I look for rubs, I look for scrapes, and I try to put myself in that deer's exact frame of mind that he's in, and I try to set my stand up, I try to set my scent up, and anything that I'm going to use to help me hunting to give me a little bit of an advantage. I was hunting turkeys in Pennsylvania one time, had to use the restroom, and while I was doing it, I noticed a steam coming off of the snow. And a couple of years ago, I started talking to him at Wellington. I said, we need to come up with something that'll work, that'll make scent work in cold weather. I said, you got a cold cup of coffee, you can't smell it. If you got a hot cup of coffee, you can smell it. So we started working, and this is a device we call a 69 scent dispenser. And what it is, you got a element in a wick, and you pour your scent over in it, and it comes up, and out of a 1 ounce bottle, in about 4 hours, you'll use a half a bottle, because it comes up in the air and the molecules rise and they float around. And if you use this in combination with some dominant buck urine later after the rut and hang a tarsal gland, you're going to have some good luck using this, because I use the dominant buck urine on the tarsal gland and on the scent dispenser to try to get more molecules up in there, and the wind will pick it up and blow it. Because all I'm trying to do, most people think that scent's going to be the magic thing that's going to draw a buck in 200 or 300 yards. A buck deer has to be close enough, or a doe deer, to smell the scent. So if it's warm in cold weather, they're going to be able to smell it further. I can't say how far they can smell it. A lot of people ask me what I think. Most of the time, I try to set the scent up within 30 or 40 yards of a trail, and I've had deer to walk that far. Other than that, I can't possibly say that a deer walk 100 yards to come to scent. I think if he can smell it, he will. It depends on the wind current. So I try to set up, there's a place here, they got a trail coming across, and it was the only good tree to get in. If you notice, I'm up in my stand now. I got my bow saw. I saw everything that bow can hit, because I was up in a tree stand one day, and I drawed my bow back. A deer came up, and I couldn't shoot from sitting down, so I had to stand up, and I wasn't watching what I was doing. And when I let the bow go, the top limb hit the limb on the tree and almost shook my hand off. I don't know where the arrow went. And I always prepare myself to where I don't want any glare. If you notice, I'm using camo dust here, and I'm putting it all over my face, my old white whiskers on the side there, and put it on my hand. I just want to be a dull color sitting up there in that tree. And at 260 pounds, a deer looks up there, he thinks I'm a big old eagle's nest or a crow's nest or something, long as I don't move and he can't smell me. That's the key to it, keeping yourself clean at all times and using something on your body, some odor killer or something, to keep your odor down. You've got to do that. And I always use a grunt call. I don't go anywhere without one. I think a grunt call is a must for anybody, because deer communicate by scent, communicate by sound. So if you've got a grunt call and a deer's in the area, he may be 100 yards away and hear that grunt call, and he may walk your way 50 yards and then smell the scent, and the combination of the two might get him in close enough for you to get that 20, 25 yard shot. I stress most time to everybody I talk to about bow hunting, don't try to take shots over 25 yards. That's the way I feel about it. I'm using a new bow here by the Bear Jennings Company. This is a Jennings Sonic 300, and it's one of the finest new bows that I've shot. I've got one of their new Carbon Extremes, which will shoot close to 300 feet per second. And this one's set at 68 pounds, and it's shooting 254 feet per second. And I'm up there sitting around, and the cameras are running, and we show you a little bit of deer footage that one of the other cameras pick up. And one, like I said a while ago with Terry, one of the most important things you can have is a safety belt. Don't get up in a tree stand, whether it's a ladder stand, climbing stand, or any type stand, that you don't use a safety belt. And I'll go over this several times, because I think it can save your life, because you don't never know when you're going to stand up and lean out and try to get a shot and you just overbalanced a little bit. A lot of times I'll use the safety rope to give me the advantage to get a little further out on the stand than I normally would. And I'm tightening it up there where it'll fit me pretty good. I check out all my equipment when I get in a stand. I hunted with Fred Bear for 15 years, and my association with him taught me a lot of things because he always told me about his mistakes. We all learn from mistakes. I think that's the key to the whole thing in hunting. You've got to take and capitalize on your mistakes. I always, especially in cold weather, when you're wearing insulated clothes, long johns and everything. This is a glove I picked up at a sporting goods store that's built into an arm guard, which I really like because I can take and put the Velcro snaps on it and it pulls it right down tight on my arm, and I don't have to worry about the string hitting my arm when I got all them bulky clothes on. And I got my bow release there, and I got my bow, I got it all set up and tuned up. And one thing that I always do, which I'll show you here, and I always do this, when I get up in a tree stand, Fred Bear said, always use an arrow. Pick something out and make sure your equipment's working. In fact, I got it one time in my tree stand, and some way I had dropped it and broke my arrow rest off, and when I went to put my arrow on it, it was gone. So I always get up in my stand, knock an arrow, and pick out a target from a 20-yard pin and make sure that my bow's shooting on. Because this is really critical when you're out there hunting. You need to have your equipment in perfect shape. If it squeaks and you can hear it, a deer can hear it twice as far as you can. I'm convinced of that. Nobody gives a deer credit how good the hearing is. And I use a kisser button. I don't use a peep sight. I shoot just on the inside of the string. And I like to have 2 pins set up, and that's all. And a lot of times, as fast as these bows are, you don't need but 1 pin set up at 25 yards, and at about 18 yards, you're a little high. And this is a new product that I don't go in the woods without. It's breath camo. And what it does, the sulfur hydrate molecules in your mouth that break down food, this kills them for about 2 hours. It doesn't kill them, it fights the bacteria in there, and there'll be no scent in your mouth at all. And this is what you want, because if you think about what I call the hot spots, the crouch of someone's legs, under their arms, and then their mouth is where the odor comes from. Even old Ishii, the famous last Indian that the Pope and Young talked about all the time, he always fasted and he wouldn't eat any meat before he went hunting because animals recognize meat eaters. And that's the reason they're so scared of grizzly bears, wolves, and everything else. You notice I got the scent dispenser up, and about 4 yards away I got up a tarsal gland, and I'm sitting here and I've been watching a deer. He's off out there on the trail, but he hadn't made a move to come towards me yet. We got another camera in another tree about 60 yards away, and he's been watching, trying to see what's going on. But this is one of the old deer that's just reluctant to do anything. But finally, after all, everything's quiet and everything, the old deer will make his mind up and start moving our way. It's a funny thing, a lot of times a deer will stop and browse. They never get in a hurry till they're frightened. You won't get one to get in a hurry. Sometimes I've had them to stand there and smell for an hour in one little thicket, just nibbling on buds, and then you'd see him start walking in. And when he gets in, you don't never know what they're going to do. The reason I think that scent does, this deer right here has become a little bit alert, but he smelt the dominant buck urine. He's smelling that tarsal gland right now, sticking his nose right up to it. He flips over there at me, and then he looks back at the gland because his own instincts are taking over. And you know, he knows I'm here, but I'm not moving. But the scent has got him up there. Now it's up to me to make the draw at the right time and get the shot. Because the way he walked in, there wasn't no way for me to draw. So a lot of times you just have to sit still, wait till the deer turns away, walks behind a tree, or does something that's going to give you that advantage to get that shot. And you got to have equipment. Your clothes can't make any noise. Your bow can't make any noise. Notice this deer stomping the ground? He knows something's wrong, but the scent, I'm convinced. If you notice my shot there, I put it right behind the front shoulder. He's about 23, 24 yards away, just what I call the perfect distance. The angle's exactly right. You notice it here in slow motion as we go through it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I try to always aim for the deer's opposite shoulder, where he's at. And this time I'm shooting on the right side, and instead of him putting his right shoulder forward, he put his left shoulder forward. But I wasn't going to get a good shot if I hadn't have took it. I had a good open lane. I didn't have any bush in my way, any brush in my way, or anything. I put it right behind the right front shoulder, and I caught the top of the heart, and the deer didn't run hardly anywhere. So what you want to do is make sure when you make your shot, take time to put that pin exactly where you want it so you know you're going to get a good, clean shot when you do get one. You know, there's nothing like hearing a deer take off crashing through the woods and then it get totally still, or you hear a big crash, just like it sounds like an automobile run into a tree sometime, because they take off when they're a heart shot, just like you stuck a match under the tail and they run wide open till they just run out of air. And that's what this old buck did. He's a pretty good sized body deer, 220, 225 pounds, which is not uncommon for some of the northern deer. In fact, up in Illinois hunting this year, I seen one at field dress 237 pounds while we was bow hunting. We don't have that down there in Alabama. Folks, go by your local sporting goods store and check for these fine products. We really appreciate you watching this video. We hope you've learned something from it. We have. That's what we're out there trying to learn ourselves. You know, and if you need more information on hunting, call 1-800-221-5054. Thank you very much.